Hello again, all of you. Now I want to discuss 7 of the reasons why women have the mindset that they run the show. Now that we have that out of the way, let's speak about the 7 reasons why women believe they are in power. Men will agree with a woman on nearly everything. And if she's a beautiful woman, they will not only agree with her, but also back her in whatever views she's putting forward. This is number 7 on the list of things men hate to do when they have to argue with a woman. If a woman were to come forward and say, "Yeah, I think we should put cows on the moon, right?" the guy would probably think that her idea was amazing and that it would bring in millions of cash. This idea needs to be created, and we need to work on developing this idea. You are a business genius, right? And it doesn't matter what it is, since it's as simple as a child's game to you. You see what I mean when I say that this is how women are treated? When they come home with their stick drawings and their parents say, "Wow, this is fantastic," and put it on the refrigerator. Their whole lives have been fine. When I was younger, I was driving on the highway and I remember seeing a woman in a large pickup truck that had a flat type. She was standing outside of her vehicle and crying because the difference in size between the two vehicles made it obvious that she did not know where the jack was. I remember thinking to myself at the time that she probably didn't even know where the jack was. A lot of women would just be sitting in the truck and continuing to cry, so whenever they do something, men look at it and think, "Wow, that's actually pretty smart." Well, she's doing pretty well because at least she's communicating to people that she needs help, which is better than a lot of women would do in her situation. So there you have it. Let's move on to number 6. If a woman can figure out what a man wants, which is not difficult to do, and then she can withhold it from him if the man believes that the most important thing in life is getting together with a woman and having children, then she can withhold it from him. If a guy believes that women are the most important thing in the universe, then the woman is, in effect, in charge, and she is in charge of the man. But who are we? And why does it matter who is in charge of what? If they're not in charge of you, and what does it matter what they are in charge of if they are in charge of you? So if you're a man, and you buy into that typical line that women are the greatest thing in the world, and you love women in your entire self-image, then you need to realize that you are in charge of you. You're aware that the approval of women is the yardstick by which to judge the quality of a man. If this is the case, then she must be the one in command, right? Because she is in charge of all the significant aspects of the man's personality, he has delegated all of his authority to her. If you understand that, then we can move on to the 5th point, which is an expansion on the 4th point. Because here's the point: even if the man founded the world, okay, even if he maintains all of the things in the world, even if the future development and advancement depends upon the male and his abilities, if the woman can dominate the man, you can understand why she would start to think that. When I was a very little boy, there was a bridge that I could see from my bedroom window to the living room every night. She was the one who actually did all of this work, in case you haven't seen it. You know, you weren't able to see it before, but now you can. So it's really remarkable to see, so it's quite stunning to see a bridge when the lights turn on at night. You know, because it lights up across the expanse, and you know you couldn't see it before, but now you can, so it's quite stunning to see. And I had it in my brain despite the fact that I was only around 1 or 2 years old at the time, which I was in fact the one turning on the lights right, and I guess it had something to do with the fact that when the lights turned on, I was the one who did it. Everyone you knew probably smiled and looked and said, "Oh, that's great, right?" I definitely caught on to the fact that that was where the attention was going, and I noticed that it was happening at approximately the same time every night. Therefore, I have recently begun to take credit for it. Therefore, it's like I'm going to go about saying things like, "Oh, aren't you beautiful?" Yeah, I did that. That was me. Very impressive, and possibly. At first, I was simply joking about turning on the lights, but later I truly started to believe that I was the one doing it. I had no idea how I got there. I would respond with, "No, not now." And "not now, just give me a little bit more time." And ultimately, I would get it right. Nevertheless, when I would say it, they would turn on me, and everyone would applaud. I suppose that's what we do with the women right now. I believe that they get the concept into their heads that because they can in fact boss the guys around, even though it was the male who built everything, they just start naturally claiming credit for it, right? Okay, now going on to number 4. I think that is the idea that they get into their heads. It doesn't matter what's going on. A woman can always make things more emotionally chaotic and muddled up than they were before she got involved. This is the 4th reason why women believe they are in command. Disarray and confusion are the general atmosphere, and this strategy can be effective even if you do not have a solid move. If you are unable to improve your position that is the weakest, or if it appears that you are about to lose the game. I'm not only talking about the game of chess here. I'm also talking about life in general, and one of the things that you can do, which is to just throw everything into total chaos. You have the ability to play a check that does nothing, you have the ability to check their king, and you have the ability to create all kinds of problems. This will cause the current situation and the road that it is on to become unstable, because this is what women do. To put it another way, This is the psychological manipulation of women. The woman approaches the man and says, "You know who your best buddy is." The man is extremely focused, is highly concentrated, is going to be successful. The other night, he was flirting with me, but that might not work. So he might say something like, "You know, my best friend is on the other side of the planet, right?" So maybe it was your best friend. So we see this tactic of women emotionally trying to manipulate men until the man loses his emotional stability and then he's on the level with the woman. For example, you could be Einstein coming up with the theory of relativity, and she could want you to go to the store to buy something. We see this tactic of women emotionally trying to manipulate men until the man loses his emotional stability and then he's on the level with the woman. She does not need to outwit you. All she needs to do is disturb whatever it is that you are doing to the point where you feel so frustrated that you give up. When you do what you are doing, you enter an emotional realm in which she can read feelings more quickly. She can respond. She's emotionally stronger. She can hide her emotions. She can express her emotions. She can read your emotions. And she can influence them by the way she acts. And the only thing that the man is capable of doing well is being extremely strong physically. And if he's not upset emotionally, he can concentrate. And if he's a decent man, he can focus on what he's doing. So to reiterate, she is not in command, but she is controlling the circumstance. Could you even fathom how unsettling it must be to know that you are the least qualified person in the room, to know that you are the most trivial person in the room, and yet to walk into the room knowing that you are the least qualified person, to know that you are the most trivial person, to know that you are the person in the room? Everyone else in the room immediately stops what they are doing and turns to stare at you. Right? Don't you see you know the differential there? They say, so we have a room full of Einsteins. All working woman with an IQ of 90 but highly attractive arrives into the room and giggles or drops her pencil at each of Einstein's stops. She is a genius. What he's doing approaches her and makes an attempt to assist her in picking up the pencil. What is she going to believe when she looks at them and tells them, "I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and I want you to do this other thing"? Those things are meaningless and useless, but she wants them to do them anyhow. You will bring down the firm and then you will bring down the nation. She's like, "I want you to bring in men from other parts of the world who don't share our values, and I want to use your tax dollars to give them free housing, free food, and free computers." And the men are like, "You're just so compassionate." And it's like, nobody bothers to tell her, but she's like, "I want you to bring in men from other parts of the world who don't share our values. You're going to starve your own children to virtue signal to complete strangers because, that's how much spare time you have." If you can understand why she might start to think that, you'll know that there's no way to stop her from doing it. In point of fact, she was the one in charge of the entire production because for the feeble men and to the best of your knowledge, as far as emotionally manipulating someone else goes, she is okay. You are aware of this, so let's go on to the number 3 reason why women believe they are in charge. In other words, the initial means to establish a civilization is through male values such as building, defending, and fighting. As a civilization grows more evolved, the values in the civilization begin to turn in the opposite direction, accumulating resources by being extremely practical and pragmatic, as well as literally adhering to these patriarchal norms. You call them patriarchal, right? But you could just as easily call them, the effective tactics to build a civilization. So after you've done that and you start to build up resources, you start to build up a dependent class of people. And this is great, because now you can take care of the children and you can take care of the elderly people, and they will have some security, and they will be able to plan for the future, and they will be able to do all kinds of great things. They may be able to improve fields such as technology, science, and the arts, but at the same time, you may find that an increasing number of people in your workforce are unable to do their duties effectively. Does this ring a bell? Take a look around your school. Not only are there plenty of young women working toward degrees that are absolutely pointless, but there are also plenty of young guys who are entirely off track. You are aware that their primary objective in going there is to get together with the women and participate in Antifa demonstrations because of this. This demonstrates how easily the young mind can be influenced by these kinds of, liberal and emotional ideas. As a result, we have reached a stage in the development of civilization in which the values and principles that form the foundation of civilization are being rejected in favor of the values and principles of people who did not establish the civilization, but who want the riches of the civilization are becoming stronger, and you can literally see the men becoming less macho and the women becoming manlier simply because of this fact. If you give it some thought, this is what we mean when we talk about civilization. When we talk about being civilized, we mean being less aggressive, less masculine, and more feminine. At the very least, this is one way that you could interpret it, and this is how we are interpreting it as well. So there you have it. Okay. Moving on to the number 2 reason why women believe they are in charge. They have more experience. Women are finally starting to believe their own emotional victim narratives despite the efforts of the market to alter them. They are beginning to believe their own emotional tale, which is perfectly fine. However, they are also beginning to believe their own publicity and marketing, and you are aware that this is something that can occur. When I was a kid, I recall doing some things that weren't exactly appropriate all the time, such as stealing cookies from the cookie jar. I feel bad about that now, but it's in the past. I admit, right. There were times when I stole the cookie from the cookie jar, and there were other times when I got caught, and naturally, without any kind of prodding from anyone. I lied about it at the time, because there were times when I stole the cookie from the cookie jar, and there were times when I got caught. It was risky, so of course you knew it was risky. And of course you knew it was risky. It's like, hey, you took a cookie from the jar, and it's like, no. Someone else sneaked into this room earlier, took a cookie out of the jar, and then placed it on the counter. I'm replacing the cookie now. I was about to put the cookie back. I should be rewarded. In point of fact, you should be thanked with a cookie for your effort. But they didn't fall for it, which is unfortunate. They did not fall for my ruse at all. However, if I had been a gorgeous girl, they might have. As a result, I was punished. I was taken to my room without a cookie, and I mourned the unfairness of my false prosecution. My wrongful detention, I continued to submit my emotional evidence in support of that cause. I have always maintained that I did not steal the cookie, but at some point in time, I began to believe that I was telling the truth. I was putting on an act, if you know what I mean. I was complaining about how unfair it was that I had to spend so much time locked up in my room when I was a kid. And for stealing a cookie, I went too far and I started to believe what I was emotionally peddling. Before you know it, I'm in the room and I'm angry. And I'm sad. And I'm distracted with this issue, and it was extremely tough for me to remind myself that. Though sure, you're absolutely right, you are lying. You were, in fact, attempting to steal a cookie. All of this upheaval, all of this breathing, all of this crying, all of this emotional turmoil was just an act to get out of admitting that I was attempting to steal a cookie, and I literally believed it. You are lying. You were, in fact, attempting to steal a cookie. You see what I mean when I say that I was being emotionally tossed around when I was only 7 or 8 years old at the most, and I thought to myself that this is incredible because I've actually started to believe my own. So there you have it. That's yet another one of the reasons why women think they are in charge, okay? So here we go with the number one reason why women think they are in charge. Here's the thing. Even though men build everything and maintain everything, even though men have invented it, women still believe they are in charge. All of the research, all of the exploration, all of the construction has been done by women. Women are Chingonians. Recently, women have urged that they should be paid the same amount as male athletes. They don't even get a tenth of the attendance, which should tell you something about how naturally talented they are. Athletes that compete at the high school level have the potential to compete at the professional level, perhaps not the very best athletes, but the bulk of them absolutely. It is a complete waste of time to watch a woman compete in an athletic event, but it is not a waste of time in the least to watch a guy compete in an athletic event. Therefore, female athletes do not deserve even a fraction of what a male athlete receives. Even though all of these things are true, women and children come first in the event that the ship is sinking, and we save the women and children in the event that we are under attack. When he is at the top of his game, you know that what he is doing is poetry in motion. We are circling the wagons, and the women and children are in the middle of that circle. If a herd that is out on the African Serengeti is being attacked, they will circle. And in the center of that circle are the women and the children, and despite the fact that the males in the herd are the ones who venture out to discover new territory and new sources of food, the women and the children are the ones who are valued, and you understand the reason for this, right? Because women and children are the ones who carry on the herd's genetic legacy. You can rebuild the tribe and the herd if you have 10 females and 1 male, but if you only have 1 female and 10 males, you won't be able to repopulate anything. The women have the ability to reproduce. The fact that men are designed to guard and defend the females was a necessary component of the evolutionary bargain for their existence, which means that women have inherent worth from a biological perspective. Would you believe that during these various local times, the women would reproduce and the men would use their physical ability to protect, guard, and provide for their families? Therefore, despite the fact that men construct everything and maintain everything, they do it for women in order to protect women, and despite the fact that women are unable to construct or maintain things as well as men, and despite the fact that women are not as intelligent or skilled as men, and despite the fact that despite the fact that she is not as powerful as men or that she is not as skilled in combat, she believes that she is loved more and that she is appreciated more than men. She is in command, of course. How could it not be? Everything revolves around her, her interests, her needs, and her goals. Every time women accomplish anything, we congratulate them for it as if it were a major accomplishment. Oh my goodness, she's a successful female novelist. That is so incredible. In the woman's perspective, Madame Curie was successful in accomplishing some work in the scientific community that was quite remarkable. She is in command due to the fact that everything else in the area revolves around her. And if you are a man whose primary occupation or obsession in life is getting together with women and pleasing women, then you have no business being in her life. All it takes is for one woman to realize that this is how the man is thinking, and then she takes control of the man, uses him until there's nothing more, and then she discards him. All it takes is for one woman to realize that this is the way the man is thinking. All it takes is for one woman to realize that this is the way the man is thinking, and the man intends for this to take place. It's a well-known fact that many men derive their sense of purpose from what a woman has to say and bring to the table. I'll tell you what to do now that this is in reality his natural place, so I hope you understand that women are not in charge, but that men are turning control over to women, and that many individual men give control over to women. I'll tell you what to do now that this is in fact his natural place. You are aware that the mother brought him up, and as a result, that is where his attention is focused. He does not need to compete in a man's world because he was brought up in a woman's world, where things were easy and given and people were taken care of, so that he does not have these male, masculine, patriarchal ideals which are despised and mocked. He was raised so that he does not have these values. So even though women can't do the work that men do, even though she can't maintain the systems, even though throughout history she hasn't created and built the systems within an advanced technological society, a woman's wants, needs, desires, concerns, and emotional fits rule the day. This is because women's needs, desires, concerns, and emotional fits rule the day. This is why Angela Merkel can bring it well. This is why we institute political social programs that are unworkable and unsustainable to placate the women who are in conflict with the very masculine ideals, so that we can sustain and maintain the present and construct and create the future. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for the time being. I hope you found this information to be helpful, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this far.